All right, now I'm just waiting for him to come in. So hopefully we got a strong connection this time and we make it happen. The room is ready. I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? I got my whiteboard ready. We about to go into some deepness. Yeah, I know. Man, he said I don't know what the blue pill 44 is, but I know you're going to teach me. Man, for one, I'm about to teach you who blue pill 44 is. I've been waiting. I've been hitting him up all week about this live session. I don't do live sessions with a lot of people unless, they can teach me something that I don't already know. So I've been having a good journey. I had a good day. I was talking with the shifters earlier. Derek Grace, Pop Darby, Ben X. We had a video conference about what's going down in D.C. They said that the weather might break up, that the hurricane actually might go south of D.C. and more so hit, the Carolinas area a little bigger. So I think we're going to be okay for D.C. I think we're going to be able to make it. So everybody that's have invested and got their tickets or got their plane tickets and a hotel and they ready to fly down, don't worry, we haven't rescheduled the event. They said that we can get the venue regardless if it's the hurricane right outside the door and the wind is blowing 100-degree weather. Y'all just got to come with us. We tapped in. We crazy. We ain't worried about no bad weather. All right, my brother ain't tuned in. So, what we was about to get into, for one, we was going to get into some numerology. We was going to get into this new paradigm, this 9/11 paradigm. Link in my bio. If you go to my page, it says "Get Tickets" right there on my page. You can click a button that says "Get Tickets." You can email me for booking, all of those different things. But we was about to get into dissecting and decoding this paradigm, and there's not too many people that I would do a session or a live like this with, besides my brothers Red Pill and Blue Pill. There's not too many people that have a mastery of understanding when it comes to synchronicity and finding the meaning and all the things that create the effects and the results of where we at currently. And I wanted to do this session because I think that it allows people to have more power and allow people to have more awareness over what's going on in reality, especially on a day like today, 9/11. It's a bad news day. It's a planetary bad news day. It's a day that everybody got bad news. It's a day that everybody observed something negative. It's a day that we had a planetary shift and the things that resulted from that, very ominous. We lost, as a collective, it ushered in a fear paradigm, an emergency paradigm. And it's very important to be able to understand what's happening in reality if we understand what happened going forward, what led up to it. So we're trying it again right now. Blue Pill 44 is in the building. It says he just joined. That's weird. It's Blue Pill. It's Blue Pillar 44. Oh.
Peace, God.
There we go.
We are in the building. You know what I'm saying? Persistence has persevered.
Yes, sir.
It was tried, true, but we was tested, but we tried and true. So it's been a lot of mechanical issues today for some reason in particular. But we have broken through the threshold and we're in the building. Salute.
Fact.
Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for having me, man. We sharing this space.
I'm in the South Bronx right now, so you got to tell me if this background noise is picking up too much. They're like real celebratory tonight for some reason. Okay.
It's fine.
We are here on a very auspicious date. 9/11. Your name is tied into today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my experience into consciousness is tied into those numbers as well. So whenever you're ready, man.
Like you said, it's an auspicious day. It's a very peculiar day. It's a major paradigm shifting and shifted day. This day changed time, changed history, created a whole new break and a whole new time and a whole new future. And it's a very interesting day because today I've got so much bad news today. like so many negative things have happened, but my spirit has remained unbroken and unattached to the actual news that I received. And it's interesting because, I was talking to Aisha about this earlier, is that we are in a loop because of 9/11. This was a planetary thing that happened. So we may be going about our time as a regular, but since the dominant frequency of this day, we don't even say September 11. We say 9/11. This day represents that moment for us until something dominant takes its place within this moment in time. But as we are here, and if most people understood what ended up happening and what led up to it and what happened afterwards as a result, and how our resulting reality is causality of that event. And that will allow you to understand the fear paradigm, the paradigm of the black bodies, the LGBT agendas. That will allow you to understand the Obama, the Trumps. That will allow you to understand hip hop as it is today. That will give you a lot of meaning within the synchronicity of these numbers and the event, and just planetary systems, and something that's broadcast out to the entire world, because it's not every day that an event is broadcast out to the world, causing a planetary shift. And the fact that it was a planetary event is very important for the paradigm shift that happened, and why the state of the white male intellectual patriarch is in the state that is in.
Hold on. Pablo!
Tell Pablo, baby,
Pablo!
quiet, baby.
They got mad bass in that shit. Hello?
Yeah. Pablo's out there, man, pushing that dopeness, huh?
Yeah, they jamming and shit. We trying to get into this information.
Yeah.
I mean,
So before I
it's
go
excitement.
into
It's excitement all around us. So
I know that it causes unhinging. You know what this is? This is 9/11 is the new Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th has lost a lot of its power now. 9/11 is the new Friday the 13th. And so a lot of people
9/11 has supplanted that.
Exactly. So
because for some people it was like a waking nightmare.
Right.
They saw something. They bore witness to a global event. Galactically, it's called an event horizon. It shifted not only events on this planet, but galactically, it shifted events. And it also interfered with time. You know what I'm saying? This is because, like you said, it imprinted a signature, a time signature that will never be replaced or removed, where there's no other day out of the calendar that's referred to in its numerical sense. It's 9/11. And we all know that, the sept, just like the oct, just like the nove, are numerical resonance and frequency. September is really the 7th month. October is really the 8th month. November is the 9th month. December is the 10th month. So it even, it's a signature in time that's off. You know what I mean? And my journey into consciousness pretty much was cemented on 9/11. It's a very long, drawn out story, but it always loops, like you said. It always brings me back to my beginnings, to my humble beginnings. So I don't know where you want to start.
Let's start with this, because I know that a lot of people have gotten information on 9/11, and I want to give them a different meaning and a different context on just how powerful it is in the reality, and why we are going back and looping back to this meaning of what it is that we're living today. And the numbers, the 9/11 numbers, and I'll give you my breakdown of it. I think I had this conversation with Red Pill months and months ago in Chicago. I had called him up and we had a whole breakdown conversation about this. And the way I look at 9/11, because the 9 for me represents the woman, the feminine, the womb. And then the 1 represents man consciousness. So you got subconscious and consciousness. And 9/11, being in the way that it's arranged, because the normality of balance will be the 1 and 9, the man and the woman, right? But in the white male intellectual patriarch, if he has the 9 in front of the 1, that's more so sort of, to me, also representing the subconscious or the woman in front of the man. And then that other 1 would be the man and the boy, right? Because in his paradigm, it's really 119. And that's more so man, boy, then woman.
because that's how he regards his paradigm of value. So the woman is always
Yes.
last. So if he is in a state of emergency, then he puts that woman in front to shield his paradigm for protection. And so it represents emergency. But
Right.
then that woman also represents the sea house of emotion, and where fear and emotion, it can be imprinted and impression. Because they say that the woman and the child are the most impressionable, because you can impression them through the emotions and mold images within their mind. And so with that being said, when this happened as a shift, and we had a subconscious paradigm shift, because subconsciously America was this powerhouse. America was untouchable. Ain't nothing happening over here in America. And then planetary, boom, we just been hit with a terrorist attack. And something like that haven't happened since Pearl Harbor in its essence. And so when you see something like that happen, they said it was 19 members of it, right? And then when we
Yes.
implemented the number 9/11, it was brought in by President Johnson, and there was 19 members on the commission that brought in the actual phone number 911 for emergencies. And so the things that happen around that, it changes the way that the new generation will be set up. So these young boys, and I'm going to bring this to music, and then I'm going to let you draw into it. These young boys, if you look at it, I believe that their minds are not arranged with the 1-9. They don't have the conscience in front of the emotion to protect their minds correctly. They have 9 minds is what I call them. So those 9 minds that they're operating off of is the reason that music is so emotional today. The music is so infused with depressive thoughts and things of that nature is because they're not operating from that level of consciousness and reason. Like when we listen to lyrics and we was like, oh, that's fire, that's high. And then later on we feel it. But first we have to reason with it. The lyrics had to make sense. The analogies had to hit because they were tapping into our conscious mind. But when you have a 9-1 mind, you know, with the conscious afterwards, then you're connecting with things on your emotional level instead of that cerebral psyche. And so I look at why things are the way that they happen, and because these young boys and then the girls are all backwards as well. So now they're moving more with their consciousness. They're moving more with their logic and their reason. So that paradigm of 9/11 shifted the generation and shifted the reason, the way people think in a way that they are. So I'm gonna leave it right there, and then I kind of just want to get your draw and take on
Yeah, I wanna add on to that perspective that you're adding, because prior to 9/11, you never ever heard nobody in hip hop say, "I'm just listening for the beats." You never heard that, and you never heard nobody preference or say anything like that in reference to Eminem, right? You never heard nobody say, "Oh, but the beats was good." No, they hang on to every lyric, they analyze it, they repeat it, all that corny shit he be talking about. People be hanging on to that.
Right.
But nowadays, with the newer crop, the newer generation, these children that have been born post 9/11, because this is the post 9/11 generation that we're bearing witness to, right? They are more into, they put the beats before the lyrics. I like the beat. I don't really know what they saying. Shit, they mumbling. You damn sure don't know what they saying. But they like, you know, the melody, you know what I'm saying? And all of that, the melody imprint came post 9/11. The emphasis on melody or melodic music came post 9/11 with 50 Cent in about 2003 when he emphasized it. Ja Rule was doing it, but he didn't put an emphasis on it. We didn't know what it was.
Right.
You know, 50 of them started speaking on it in name. No, it's the melody that's making me win. I'm following the melody, and then all of these dudes came afterwards, and that's what they was harping on. Oh, we just focusing on melody, and then the South got hold of that, and then now we are where we're at.
Right.
In music, you know what I'm saying, where it's melody driven, you know what I'm saying, or harmony driven. It wasn't. It was always lyrically driven prior to that. So you as always, brother, you know what I'm saying, I'm a student in your classroom because your perspectives are amazing. You know what I'm saying? The way that you have summarized that in such a short amount of time and put it in perspective. You know, what happened on 9/11 is they cracked what was called the subconscious cosmic egg. You know, so subconsciously, people are traumatized by the mere mention of 9/11. It triggers the trauma, and they don't even know it. But it's a cosmic egg. So anything within that cosmic egg is traumatized. So we're talking about there was a crack in the galaxy. So anything within that particular cosmic egg is experiencing that trauma. everything post 9/11 is related to 9/11. Donald Trump is 9/11. Barack
The Trump
Obama
card.
was 9/11. You know what I'm saying? When you hear about the war on terror, that's 9/11. Anytime that they invoke anything about Islam is tied into 9/11. So there's so many subconscious triggers that we don't even identify with.
School shootings.
Yeah, look. Yeah, this dude just pulled up on me. Shout out to
What's going
Reptile.
on with the master, man? I bowed down.
Indeed. You know what I'm saying? So all of these things that we are not aware of are affecting us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we speak about post-traumatic this and post-traumatic that. And a lot of it gets attributed to what they saying, slavery or crack cocaine or this, that, and the other.
Right.
But I'm not going to reveal my age, but I'm old enough to remember when that wasn't really a conversation. In the 90s, we was thriving. Nobody was talking like that. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't stopping Elijah. That wasn't stopping, you know what I'm saying, the nation. Everybody was pushing forward. They were speaking about things that was in their face at that particular time, but nobody was harking back to slavery saying we got PTSD. No,
Mm-hmm.
the post-traumatic stress syndrome that they're all suffering from is dealing with 9/11,
Right.
right? It's post-crack era and it's post 9/11. That's the trauma that people are dealing with that hasn't been addressed. That's the depression, the uptick in antidepressant, you know, the entire drug wave that we seen hit. First it was antidepressant and it became anti-anxiety drugs. So these are the things that people are not put in perspective to and realizing because it hasn't been properly diagnosed. They just swept it under the rug and kept it moving. But people are thoroughly traumatized by this event. You know what I'm saying? And they don't know
And
why.
it's something that we don't deal
And
with on a global scale.
I mean, it hasn't been identified for it to be dealt with. You know, how can you diagnose something for a prognosis if it hasn't, you know, how can you come up with a prognosis for it if it hasn't been diagnosed?
Mm.
So we're overlooking it. We just push past it. We were fed all sorts of lies and things that don't add up. And for the sake of nation, if you will, right? We moved on and they gave us Obama and people really shut up on it. They just became quiet and it was like,
Right.
okay, we need to restore things and rebuild things. You know what I'm saying? They're at war
Right.
with a guy named Osama, but they just put somebody named Obama Hussein in office. You know,
Right.
they're at war with Osama and Saddam Hussein, and they just elected a president called Obama Hussein. Amazing, amazing what they can do when the psyche is fractured and traumatized, right? It's in a state of it's you can program it at that point. It's
Yeah,
malleable.
that's where it is. The
So
impression.
the entire society is Manchurian, and they don't even get it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? They don't even get it.
I think what you said about Obama is so key in this whole thing because remember when it all went down, Bush he had a license to do whatever the fuck he wanted to. He had a license to go to war, a license to take away rights, a license to just spread propaganda throughout the streets all damn day, a license to be dumb, and we not even trip. But why would you allow people to make that kind of concerted effort and just agenda right there blatantly in front of your face? Fear allows you to do that. Because
Fear,
when you're dealing
fear.
with fear, you're
Yeah.
no longer dealing with logic and reason. Because logic and reason
No,
will tell you,
no.
hell no, we not. Why are we going to war for that shit? That don't make no sense. But fear says, no, yeah, let's do this. Let's find any way to make me
Yes.
feel safer. So if you got to take away my
And
rights, I'll feel safer. If we got to go to war, I'll feel safer. Whatever it is. And then what happened after that? The people consciousness raised because they became so aware that the government was full of shit, and they said, wait a minute. What's going on with this whole thing? And then what happened? You had the people uniting for a common cause, which was against the 1% during the Occupy Wall Street. Because the people were saying, wait a minute, this is now something that we can clearly see as this regime of the white patriarchal rule that's lying to us and using these obvious tactics. That's when, what year did The Matrix come out?
The Matrix came out in '99.
99. That's when people
Yes.
really came out the Matrix, though. During that Bush era, when people the movie only corrected infractions.
Now, yeah, let me briefly tell you my story. You know what I'm saying? My humble origins and beginnings into consciousness, and a lot of it was intertwined around 2001. You know, not so much only centered on 9/11, but it was all triggered, around that year.
Right.
So I saw The Matrix when it came out. I was highly affected by it, but I was still in the streets, so I didn't know how to integrate it quite yet. It spoke to me. When I was about 9 years old, our father took us to see Superman, and he told us something during that time that stuck with us forever, and we've utilized to this day. He said every movie has subliminal messages in it. I had to ask him in every which way possible, like, what does that word mean? You know? Are you still there, bro? Because your
Yeah, I'm
screen is
listening. I'm listening.
okay. He said, so, he explained to us what subliminal messages is. He said, you always want to look for something in a movie that's there, but it's not there. It's not on the surface. It's another message being given to you that you don't see with your eyes. So that was very intriguing to me. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm intrigued with mystery. I'm intrigued with digging a little bit deeper for that hidden gem. So every movie that I will go to see after that point, I'm looking for the subliminal messages. I'm looking for the hidden message in things. And as you get older and you come across all of these schools of thoughts, you pick up little pieces and jewels and things here and there, and you're able to put stuff together. You understand the mythos, you know what I'm saying? You start grasping all of the origin stories from different schools of thoughts, and you see them play out in different ways, the way that, the movies start embellishing them. So when I saw The Matrix, I was blown away. And I was like, look, it was one of the reasons that I decided to, I was on the fence. I was like, I'm in the street and shit, but there's a lot that I don't know. There's
Right.
something else going on out there that I need to, what I'm saying, get a little bit, I need to tighten my, I need to wrap my mind around. And a series of things happened in my life that pushed me in that direction. I met a young lady in about early 2001, like May 2001. I was in Miami, and I fell in love. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or
Love
the
story.
beginning stages of that. And based on that, for the very first time, I had wanted to actually live as opposed to playing with my life every day, just living on the edge and risking my life. I finally found something I wanted to live for, so I became a square overnight.
Mm.
And I was like, yo, I gotta get a job because I didn't want to go on my daily missions anymore because I wasn't feeling it. I was entertaining fear for the first time. Like she
Right.
restored my mortality. I felt like a mortal.
Mm.
And I was like, yo, I can't be in the streets like this. We was impervious to danger when we were ignorant. Ignorant was bliss to a degree. I can explain that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where the magic was coming from. We was being so reckless that they say God take care of fooling babies. So he was looking out, But when I became conscious of what I was doing and I became aware, I became fearful because I was like, damn, I don't want to get locked up, So I had made some missteps and I got knocked, because my mind wasn't in the right place. I had one foot in and one foot out, and I slipped up and I got knocked. And I was in a distressful situation because I didn't have money for lawyers. I had two cases, matter of fact. I got knocked back to back. I got knocked and I went out to get some money for lawyers and I got knocked again. So now I'm in a quad buyer, if you will. I ran into a good friend of mine, a brother named Rikers, who I grew up with in the streets, and he had just survived an attempt on his life. He got shot 5 times. He died and came back. And after he came back, he was just on a tear. He was just eating up information, ordering books and just devouring them. He became a Mason, but he also was going to a class that was teaching moral science. So he recommended to me that I needed to go to this class because these brothers could help me out with the law. This was in 2001, before 9/11. So I go to the class, you know what I'm saying? I stick around for a minute. I start getting some gems. They were very skeptical of me. I was coming off of the street, and they had just had a situation in the class where the feds had ran down on them because they was teaching some hustlers how to discharge debt. And these brothers had bought a boat and a plane, and they had got caught with some bricks in the beamer and everything. So it, you know, the spot, it was hot. So they
Right.
like, we just not giving this information out anymore. We don't know who you are. So I had to prove myself for a little while, come around, and you know, I started going to court with my paperwork. You dig what I'm saying? The old paperwork story. Now, one of my cases that, you know, my brother often speaks on was a case that took place on September 10th, 2001, the day before the towers came down.
Mm.
I went in there with my paperwork and I slayed the dragon. Like I tore this judge to pieces,
Yeah.
you know, with my demonstration. Paperwork on top of demonstration. I used a technique that kind of like put the entire court system into stress. And you know, so that night when I get back, I went back to class. I was kicking it with the Moors till like 2 in the morning. I go home. I start reading this book that I had from David Icke called The Biggest Secret. And in the book, Icke was saying, look, they're about to hit the towers again, and they're gonna blame it on a man named Osama bin Laden. I don't know how he knew this or what he was talking about,
You said David
but
Icke?
lo and behold, David Icke,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
David
yeah.
Icke in his book, right? So lo and behold, 8:30 comes around. I hear a scream from downstairs like, "Turn your TV on!" I get up, I turn the TV on, and in the book, right, he was like, "Yo, they're gonna do this," and he said, "Watch and see who announces it first," because he had a whole chapter about Colombia, his whole conspiracies about the goddess Columbia and how they, you know, ritualize around that particular entity. So lo and behold, I just happened to turn my TV on, and it happened to be on CBS. And like 20 or 30 minutes into the broadcast, they flashed a picture of Osama bin Laden on the screen. They said that this is the suspect. You know, we found IDs intact, and you know, we know that it's. You know, they had all of the numbers, the 19. They had everything figured out
Yeah.
in no time, and I was just like, I just wasn't
Script.
feeling it at
Great
all.
script.
You dig what I'm saying? But next time that I went to court, my God, they had like a military tribunal in there. There was like 13 DAs. It was just so much changes that took place instantaneously that I knew that I was in a new paradigm. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I also knew that a lot of what was done was about them restructuring their corporation to attack what people were doing with paperwork, because the whole thing was about to come down. They were being exposed for the de facto corporation that they are. You know, a lot of holes was being punched into their shit. And,
Right.
you know,
I,
and
I
then
no,
simultaneously
I'm gonna let you go.
in that September of that month, I I um I started writing for a newspaper that a friend of mine started called Four Corners. So I was utilizing this platform as a journalist to go against the grain and to tell the story that needed to be told, of which nobody at that time was telling. Everybody fell in line, at least in you know, around me. And at that time, around me meant like in the hip hop industry,
Mm-hmm.
streets, you know, all the people that had the platforms in the ears of the people, them niggas became patriots. They were singing that song. You know what I mean? Everybody was in shock. And there wasn't enough information floating around for people to have plausible deniability or to ask questions. You know, they just forgot whatever they was taught prior to that. And, you know, they collectively felt violated as Americans, as citizens. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I just saw people think without using any rationale at all, any logic, like you said. You know what I
Right.
mean? It was all fear based, and you see how people respond to fear. You see how groupthink really works.
Right. The
You
crowd
see
mind.
how, yeah, you know, it was
And
almost like a intellectual witch hunt that took place. You know, like see something, say something, turn your neighbor in if they're not with this. You know, if they think different or say something different, they might be a terrorist or a terrorist sympathizer. So they had people looking at other people. You know what I mean? It became a police state overnight.
yeah, you know, as a Muslim shit, they was on us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
And I
As a
remember that
Muslim, they
sisters
were,
getting their
yes.
hijab snatched off, all kind of shit was happening.
it was a very ugly time. It was a very ugly period in this particular country. If you was on the other side, if you were people that deemed to be targets, it was disgusting.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a bunch of things ensued afterward that just were very questionable. Afghanistan, Iraq, and I was just cognizant of a lot of things that were taking place. Now, fast forward to 2000 2009, right? 2009 comes around. I go through this whole fiasco. I'm working up at Epic Records. Michael Jackson transition. I vowed not to go back in that building ever again because I felt like they had something to do with it. And this is when I tapped in and said, "Look, okay, so let me just, I'm jumping, but let me jump backwards." So in 2001, when I started the newspaper, or I started writing at the newspaper, we hired a writer as well named Brother Black Dot. The Black Dot came over there, and me and Black Dot, what I'm saying, we connected because we had a mutual interest at that time, and that was we knew about Phil Valentine and Bobby Hemmett. This is when they were super duper underground. So me and him was like, it would be a good idea if we created a lecture circuit in New York where we could bring in, the lecturers to speak to the younger crowd. Because now with the newspaper as a platform, we can utilize that to advertise and bring young people in. And we knew that the only way that this incident could be explained was through a metaphysical lens, because the people that were in charge, the quote unquote leaders at that time, they had knocked off Khalid Muhammad. They got him out the way. So there wasn't too many people on a ground level that can like get the people out of this patriot frenzy that they were going into. You know what I'm saying? So we decided that we wanted to bring Valentine in, and quietly, that's what spawned the metaphysical underground, which became the undergirding to what we understand now as the conscious community, because this was the hip hop version. Prior to this, the only lecturers, in the community were talking to 40-year-olds, 40 plus. Like, there was nobody in the audience that was our age. I was the only one physically attending any of those events that was under the age of 40. And I was the only one asking questions. You know what I'm saying? So, I put Black Dot in position to, I introduced him to some people he needed to be introduced to. And I fell back and went and did what I had to do with the newspapers. And they put together the framework for what became, the latest iteration of the conscious community, the hip hop version. Fast forward to 2009, I decided to come out of the industry situation altogether and get back into consciousness. And at this time, I wanted to help Red out because he was in Harlem, up in on 125th with Sarnetta. And I was like, yo, you need to be on this thing called YouTube. Because I had already did 1 million views on YouTube. I had a channel. I started my channel January 1st, 2007. And I had 1 million views by 2008. And then Sony picked us up to head their online music division, of which the first artist that we had was Nipsey Hussle. So we did Nipsey Hussle's documentary and did 1 million views in 24 hours on WorldStar. We did that 3 times, right? Blew it out the water. It was called Turned Up. That was the first time that word was used in public. Okay? These are all facts. You dig what I'm saying? But I was tired. I wasn't feeling epic. I went back into the streets with Red, right? And then that turned into our YouTube channel, Know the Ledge. And then we showed Sarnetta how to upload videos. And then that turned into Sarnetta TV. And then I turned around and was like, y'all, I need to do this lecture. You feel me? So I started doing research for this lecture that I wanted to do, all right, on hip hop. And this is where I bumped into a book by a gentleman named Jose Arguelles, who wrote a book called Time in the Technosphere. And in this book, this is where he was speaking about false time. Yeah, yeah. And this is when I first came into the contact or the information pertaining to 19, right? The number 19. And I was blown away. I was very intrigued by the science of numbers, the way that he was freaking it. He was explaining that everything that took place was in a 28-year cycle. So his emphasis was 1945 is when the military matrix age started, right? This was after they dropped the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is when he's saying the first terror rip in the galaxy took place, right? And this mechanical age started. 28 years after that is when they opened up the World Trade Center in 1973, right? April 4th. So this was my beginning for 4-4, right? This would pick my interest. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, Jay-Z came out with the blueprint on 9/11 as well. And he's a 44. Like, I always known him to be intrigued with that number. You know what I'm saying? And I just thought that that number was fly. So I started becoming interested and just digging a little bit deeper. And then he said 28 years after that was 2001 when the towers came down. So he was dropping the science on 28. He was dropping the science on 19. He was explaining the whole Mayan calendar aspect. He was just dropping so much shit. I had a paradigm shift by reading this book.
Right.
Where he was like this matrix is run by the clock and the calendar. The time is off and the calendar's off.
Frequency.
Yeah, the 1260 frequency. He was talking about the 13 moons. I mean, all of this shit was just like so profound to me to hear, but it all made sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I started tightening it up, and I was around two scholars at the time when I was preparing my lecture. I was around Noble Lampu, who's into astrology, and I was around A.A. Rashid, who's into Kabbalah. So I started pulling from both of them to get this lecture together, and I started utilizing gematria to deduce the numerical value of people's names and events. You know what I mean? And I started using the astrological aspects to see what correspondence, you know, these people have, like, are things that are happening in real time identifiable in people's charts, and it definitely was. Which led me to believe that, like, whoa, is this shit written? You know what I'm saying? Because look, it's right there. Like, I can see something that happens specific to the second, not just the day, by looking at somebody's chart. So these things just became a level of interest, you know what I'm saying, of mine that told me that I needed to know more. I needed to dig deep. And like I said, as a Scorpio, I was there for it because I'm like, oh shit, I done learned something new. You know what I'm saying? And that has led up to this particular moment. Like, I'm still digging, I'm still learning. You know what I'm saying? I'm still intrigued. I'm still blown away by all of the synchronicity and correspondences. And 9/11 in particular is, you know, that's one incident in particular that was just like so. Hold on, yeah, son, please, I want to live. That incident in particular was one incident that I found so many connections to 44 in, that once I figured that I was onto something of interest that just wasn't just banter or conjecture, you know, I stuck with it, and it started communicating with me. As crazy as that might sound, Pig, you got a customer? Yeah. As crazy as that might sound, you know, and y'all got to pardon me because I'm like in the middle of my actual hustle. Peace, God. You know, we out here selling food to the people. But
my brother Third Eye Jai, he know time in the technosphere.
Yes. Jose, because they're asking in the chat, what's the name of the book? Jose Arguelles, Time in the Technosphere.
Because not all his books are published. But if you look up Mother Taneta and Jose Arguelles, you'll be able to find his stuff, because they did some great work together.
Yeah. So, right. Later on in time, after I found out about the law of time, and I found out that, you know, they had an organization set up that really dealt with the dissemination of this information, I started seeing Mother Taneta in the Final Call building on it. You know what I mean? And that used to be my favorite part of the paper, because she used to go in. She was metaphysical. and I love the approach that, you know, the feminine breakdown, you know what I'm saying? Her lens,
Everybody
the way
wasn't
that
ready for her though. A lot she had talked, but she
I know
she
that.
spoke over most people's crowns because they wasn't tapped in.
I could only imagine. I can only
And
imagine. That's
and
why
that's
I
what I
really
loved about
appreciated
her
her.
because
Yeah, that's what I'm
you
saying.
you you get tired of the basics and it's like feed me something deeper. And she would be one of the teachers that would. I don't care. She did. It wasn't that she didn't care. She wasn't losing you. It was just that she was just on such a high frequency because of her experience with it. And you can tell that she spoke from a place of experience when she talked about transitioning into different states and elevations. And the one thing, because I want to give some people a little context with the Jose Arguella so they can understand what we're talking about when we're talking about the time in the technosphere. Can y'all hear me? They saying it's a little hard to hear me. Let me turn my volume up.
Yeah,
So,
just let this ambulance go by. Man.
so the whole thing what we talking about with Jose Arguellas is he said that he discovered what he called the law of time, which is basically he said that he was
Yes.
in a museum, and one day as he was in a museum he had a revelation, which he called more so a prophecy, and he said that he was looking at the clocks, and it hit him that they all had something in common, that they were all resonating on this 1260 frequency, meaning that 12 months, 60 seconds, 60 minutes. And he started to have this thought in what he called the biosphere, meaning that talking about organic time, meaning that he said that time creates art. Basically, that anything that is of natural time, just like the sunset, he said it creates something beautiful. And so what he was saying is basically that we're living in an artificial time period. And I believe
Yes.
it was
Yes.
1582 that the clocks were made, and that's when men decided to live by man's time and man's increments of synchronizing our life with that, which was totally against our biology, like our circadian rhythm, which is very important when it comes to
Yes.
controlling the people, because if you can control a person's time, you can control those people. So imagine if I created a system of time, and that's when we was talking about the first shippers event. We talked about this destroying time. So imagine if I created my own system of time, because what we living in right now is the white patriarchal intellect time, meaning that we're literally living in their time because they created the time for us to live on. So like when you mentioned
Facts.
the 13 moons in the Ethiopian calendar is based off the 13 moons because the sun goes around this 12 times, but the moon goes around 13 times because they have different speeds.
Facts.
So that sun and that moon is also indicative of balance because in the white patriarchal intellect, like I told you, is that it represents the man and the boy. And if you can look at that in many different ways, so when you talk about a calendar that's only represented by rotation of the sun, they only rotating around the sun. And in most cultures, the moon is the feminine because it represents the tides of a woman and the pull that she has and the pull that it has on her. So when you got a calendar that's respectful and representative of the sun and the moon, which is a lunar solar, because we are on just a solar calendar, which is the Ethiopian calendar. I believe they have 5 days out for their last month, but they have 13 months in their calendar. So it's always within that balance of sun, moon, which is more so man, woman, which is harmony and balance. And in this paradigm is man, boy, which is no balance. And that's why his paradigm is always in this state of flux and he can't maintain control. Because imagine if you have like a Libra scale and there's balance, you got that 1 and 9 and they weighing on each other, nothing moves. That keeps harmony right there. But when there's disimbalance, then you always trying to find balance within that rule and within that society. And can y'all hear me? Am I breaking up? I don't want to go further if I'm breaking up because the brothers, I think it's just you, Reezy. Nobody else said the sound is low, but I know I can't tell if a blue pill is further going. But the whole idea of this time harmonics 1320 frequency that they called is because, and I'm gonna try to get him back in here when he gets ready, is that we live on mechanical time based on clocks. So imagine man didn't always use clocks so that he could measure his time. Man used reality, man used nature. So imagine that a bee starts living by the clock. He won't know when the flowers are blossoming because he say, 12 o'clock they're supposed to blossom. Well, you might have missed the peak times. So man is living on this as well, but we have a circadian rhythm which is our biological clocks that set up throughout a 24-hour period that lets us know the best times and the worst times to do this, when we are more focused, when we should be eating. Our body is naturally in tune with the environment and the nature. We back. They playing with the connection, man, because I want to hit into some really good points. And before we get on, I'm gonna read this from the actual book that he's talking about, because all of this goes into the 19 keys, which is different from the 19 code. I don't want anybody to get it confused, because there's a difference. There's a 19 code and there's a 19 key.
Real quick.
The 19, and I was just about to explain the difference between code and the 19 key, because what you explaining is more so a breakdown. With the book of time is more so about the 19 code, and that's what
Yes.
they are Guelas and then was going into, and that's why it is funny, you know, I didn't understand before when I named myself 19 keys. I didn't study none of that information at first. I studied that information afterwards. The same thing with Mother Tanetta. I didn't discover none of her works. I got my 19 keys from Master Fard Muhammad after being impressioned by one of his quotes. So I got more of the masculine first, and then I got the feminine, which I think is important, which I think was why a lot of people couldn't get Mother Tanetta, because the number 19 can be indicative of a feminine measure and a feminine sign of understanding the basis of reality. But since she was so feminine already, I think it was hard for people to take it from her to understand, because she was giving it to people in the spiritual sense, but not from the logical and regional sense. And what I do is I conceptualize the number 19 in a logical manner to where people can understand the information, and they can use the actual information and the knowledge to actually unlock their paradigm and go to different higher levels and states of consciousness. And I think that's an advantage that men have, because unless you are a divine masculine man, then it's harder for you to take information from women, because your ego is attached to that which you hear. You filtering things out with your ego. But when you have the divine masculinity, and this all ties into the 19, why it's very important, because the divine masculinity is of the higher mind. So you a man, you tough, you can manage yourself, but you have a higher mind. You're connected, which means your conscious and your subconscious mind is aligned. Your logic and your emotions, which means that you can rise above emotions into the thinking of a God. So there's male, boy, then there's man, then there's God. But there's states of evolution that you have to climb into, and why I find it so important that to break this down is that we are walking around with all these young boys that have these 9 minds, and they're trying to manage their life through the frequency of emotion instead of logic. And so they have no balance, but man has an X or Y chromosome.
Facts.
But we are balancing our masculinity the way that the white patriarch tried to balance his, which is the boy and the man. But we have to do it from the man and the woman, which is that God triarch I talk about. So destroying his time, which the white man has no history past 6,000 years, which is artificial recorded time. That's when his time started. So when you hear the terms end of times, it doesn't represent the end of the world. The end of time represents the end of artificial time. So we get to natural time, which is naturally in tune with the balance of man and woman, sun and moon, lunar, solar. Now, you familiar with the Baha'i people? The Baha'i religion?
Yes. Yes.
So
Baha'i birth?
You know,
yeah.
As I'm sure you know, they have the calendar where it's 19 days and 19 months. And theirs is one of the most accurate calendars that's created with a system of it being 19 days and 19 months. And I think about this, and I said, in every 19 days, they get together and they have social interactions with their people, so that it actually builds a community. Because we always talk about what we can do as far as unity, but we don't know each other. We don't have any rituals that build culture within each other. So it's like, how can you really love? How can you protect somebody and appreciate people you don't know? How can you love people you don't know? Black people don't know each other. We don't have any culture. And we have culture, but we don't have those ritualistic traditions that set up so that we can bond with each other continuously. And that's why I find it so important to have a 19 paradigm, is that it creates a balance continuously in everything, and it's a way that we can conceptualize where we need to go when you look at it from that lens. So I believe that we should all meet up or have something every month that actually make us a community, to where we sit down, we eat together, we build them with each other. Because now you know this person, you know about their personal life, their business life, you know what I mean? And then they also have times where they fast for 19 days. So y'all get y'all health right. And this is so important because this is the type of traditions we have as Africans, as Moors, as Asiatic. You know, this, because the Baha'i people, what they do is they have a council of like 19 prophets or something, but they take all different things from different religions. So they don't discriminate against religions. They say, no, Buddhist, Muhammad, Jesus, whoever it was, they all had something that we can take from, and we're just
That's
taking
right.
that for the point of unification. So I look at that system and I say, wait a minute, because me, I study everything. And I study everything for the point of finding truth and solutions that we can use, because our paradigm is in this disarray. And nothing that we do on the individual archetype level is of the real importance, because it has no future. And unless it has a future and is good for the next generation, and we can't see the signs of what's happening continuously, then we get caught up in this cycle. So unless we can actually filter things from finding synchronicity, which is observing the meaning and what we observe, then we won't be able to understand the effects of what we observe. And we just be caught up in the reaction of what our observations are. And the higher level of consciousness you have, the more observation that you can actually see in this mathematical universe. Because mathematics is its own language. Mathematics is the universe of reality. And so the same way you have a higher level of
That's a
consciousness,
fact.
so you will observe the number 44 more than most people, because you're not spending energy on distractions. Your energy is to be in tune with the observation of the number. But at the same time, you create the observations that you see, because each observer has his own reality of consciousness. And you affect reality when you observe something, the same way when you observe an atom, you change its vibratory state. So if you are at a lower level state of consciousness, you won't have energy to observe or create observations to find meaning. Meaning that you're creating your reality and defining the meaning of what you create and observe continuously. And if I have a higher state of consciousness, then I'm finding more observations, because that's where I'm spending my energy, because I have enlightenment for my higher mind. So that's where you find synchronicity. So brothers like yourself, blue pill and red pill, it lets me know to even observe the mathematical order of the universe, that you all have to have a high level of energy within the mind. And not everybody does that. I'm sure your super kill give people all kind of high energy for better observations. But all of our culture, which is more so caught, that we create because we put connotations on words and define them to be negative, when they can be blueprints that can be solutions for the positive. So we're supposed to create our own rituals. We're supposed to create our own cults. We're supposed to create our own one world order, our own one world language. So therefore, we all are in the same expression of reality, because we live on the same planet, but we are all in different worlds because of our different levels of perception, observation, and consciousness. So I wanted to do this master decoding session with you because I want people to start observing the world from this lens of mind and meaning so that we can control what's being defined instead of reacting to it.
Absolutely. And I mean, brother, you know, your explanations are profound and you
Man, I
get it.
appreciate
You know what I'm
you.
saying? And I feel safe because you young brothers get it. The shifters get it. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
I love listening to how you apply the information. You know what I mean? If you observe something for a period of time where you have a synchronized relationship with it, you now have the ability to affect and or control that thing. You know, whereas with the, you know, what the Western man has done is exactly that. You know what I'm saying? He figured it out, and now he has put it into this particular box for this paradigm where it's not only control, but it's something that's participatory. So there's artificial time. People have to reset their clocks and manually change the shit for daylight saving, right? Like that's participatory. Everybody participates. He's not
On a
holding no
one
guns
world
to
time
nobody's
system?
head. Look, more so on look to the point where the rest of the world is a day ahead of us. They gotta wait for the Western world to catch up. What's fucking with that?
Right. We literally in different
It's
times.
Wednesday in the East.
It's 3 hours ahead where you at. We're not even on the same time.
Exactly.
That don't even make sense, really. And only you know, the English language actually controls our directional language towards time, because not in every language that they have this expression of time being linear forward and backwards. In a lot of different places, they do it directional based off landmass, based off east, south, north, west, so that they will be able to understand where the future is based off their direction of where, you know, their trajectory is based on the compass of the earth. So I would say that the future is in front of me because I'm in front and I'm pointing this way. Let's say they say no, the future is in the east, so they have to figure out where the hell is east directed. So we're not saying that time is relative based on my position, me. No, time is relative based off, we saying a universal or a landmass position, which has nothing to do with me. I just figure out where time is. And we got like
Right.
1 minute left, so if you want to continue this, I'm gonna go back live.